Okay. I'll call the meeting of the City of Pacifica City Council to order for June 25th, 2018. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Martin?
Here.
Councilmember O'Neill?
Here.
Councilmember Degree?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Vaterlos?
Here.
Mayor Keener.
And now we'll have a salute to the flag led by Councilmember Martin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have a closed session report? Do we have a closed session report? Do we have a closed session report?
I'm sorry. No, there are no reportable actions this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. What's that? Thank you. Next, we have we have three special presentations, but the first one is for Wendy Tukloff, the Pacifica School District Superintendent. And I'm going to ask Mike O'Neill to read this proclamation to her because he was on the school board when she was hired in 2010. So, Mike, here you go.
Is she here? Oh, there you are. And her husband, Ted. Hi, Ted. How are you?
Yeah, and come on up to the podium.
Right.
Yeah.
You can too, Ted. Did you bring the dog? No. No? Oh, okay. Okay. So, congratulations to Dr. Wendy Tukloff on the occasion of her retirement. Whereas Wendy Tukloff was hired as the superintendent of the Pacifica School District on July 1st, 2010, and whereas Wendy's experience, knowledge, and articulation of today's curriculum has provided the Pacifica School District with the leadership skills to guide, coach, and enhance the learning environment of our education community, and whereas Wendy has been an active member and held office in many professional organizations, such as president of the San Mateo County Superintendent Association, executive board member of the American Association for University Women, governing board of San Mateo County Special Education Local Plan Area, executive board member of the Japanese American Citizen League, and a recognized leader for affordable workforce housing in San Mateo County. And whereas Wendy has been a presenter for the San Mateo County Office of Education, LCAP workshops, Skyline Community College, affordable housing, College of San Mateo, affordable housing, and has served on the superintendent panel, ACSA Region 5, women's panel, ACSA Region 5, speaker for the Big Lift, focusing on attendance. And whereas Wendy led the coordination of quarterly joint articulation committee meetings of executive management, city council, and school board members between the City of Pacifica, Pacifica School District, Jefferson Union High School District, and the North Coast Water District. And whereas Wendy demonstrated exemplary cooperation with the city, supporting funding opportunities that would benefit both the Pacifica School District and the city, such as the Safe Routes to School project, and has accommodated the city with the use of school facilities to conduct Pacifica Police Department trainings. And whereas Wendy's innovative spirit and enthusiasm for the education of the youth of our community deserves special recognition. Now, therefore, John Keener, Mayor, on behalf of the entire City Council, deem it an honor to extend our sincere thanks for her dedicated service and wish her all the best in future endeavors, done this 25th day of June. And although she doesn't look it, it's been 40 years since she started teaching, right?
I started when I was 10.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So I have to admit it was fun when I was on the school board with Wendy. We went through, I don't know, I was on the board, what? You were hired in 2 years with you, right? And before I could,
Then you moved over.
yes, and then I came up and went on, but we started the Oddstad project. And we did some other stuff in terms of finishing up some of the remodeling. We fixed a major leak that was a joint effort between the city and Ortega School, because we had someone on the school board that pushed you guys, and I pushed the city, and we got it fixed. Thank you, Van. And Wendy has done a lot for the city and the teachers and the students here in Pacifica in the 8 years she's been here. And now you're not going to, she came from Fresno originally, Fireball, if I remember right, correct? Yeah. And she beat out quite a few applicants for superintendent when she was hired. So, did you want to say anything, Wendy?
Well, of course, it's been quite an honor and a privilege to work for Pacifica School District, and probably an added piece has always been to work with the city of Pacifica. I have appreciated the opportunity to be part of this community. I have felt always a sense of support, and I hope we have demonstrated that to you as a district, and I anticipate that we will continue to have this partnership as we move forward. And again, thank you. It has been such an honor and a privilege to work not only for the district, but also for the city of Pacifica. This is a wonderful place to be, and I think that the city has always supported us through our parcel tax, our bonds. We just passed our bond measure, and we thank you, and we want to make certain that what we do will always be with the city of Pacifica in mind as we work together in moving forward for our students, our families, and our community. So I thank you. And I thank, of course, my husband, Ted, who came forward with me on this journey, because, of course, I, as Mike said, was in Fresno as well as in the city of Fireball, but started this journey with the San Francisco Unified School District, who taught me well and provided me with that equity lens, and I was able to bring that forward to Pacifica. So thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Don't forget the proclamation.
Um,
I want to say something.
Sue Degree.
Yes, thank you, Wendy. You were immersed in the community. It wasn't just a school segment, and I really appreciate that you were seen all around town as part of the community, and you have an infectious smile, which was like, there's hope in the world. So I really appreciate your doing that. Thank you very much. And you also help with the choosing of the next superintendent. So there's a good send-off together there. So I appreciate that, too.
Sue Vadelas.
I thank you for the major project that is being worked on at Oddstead School for workforce housing, not to mention all the other things you've done. And if ever I had to call you to ask you a question, you always answered me right away. And I really appreciate that in people who take the time. And you are a great person. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Photograph.
You're the star of this show, girl. Well, I gotta tell you, I got a full-time mentor.
You can only walk the dog so much.
Want me in that?
Okay, next, another proclamation. This is for Parks, Beaches, and Parks and Recreation Month. Get my other glasses on here. Okay. Whereas Parks and Recreation makes lives and communities better now and in the future, and whereas Parks and Recreation's programs build healthy, active communities and are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including Pacifica, and whereas Pacifica Parks, Beaches, and Recreation, PB&R Department, offers an array of programs and services for our community. And whereas it is established through statewide public opinion research, 98% of California households visit a local park at least once a year. 3 households visit a park once a month. 50% of households participate in an organized recreation program, and most park use is with family and friends. And whereas parks provide access to the serenity and the inspiration of nature and outdoor spaces to play and exercise, and parks preserve and protect the historic, natural, and cultural resources of our community, and whereas recreation fosters human development, providing positive alternatives for children and youth during non-school hours to reduce crime and mischief, thereby helping children and youth develop and grow into healthy and productive adults. And whereas Parks and Recreation offer places, spaces, and programs to facilitate social connections, human development, therapy, the arts, and lifelong learning at all ages. And Parks and Recreation strengthens community image, sense of place, and increases cultural unity. And whereas thousands of Pacificans of all ages benefit from the wide range of services provided by our child care, recreation, and senior service divisions. And whereas our community can enjoy programs, parks, beaches, and facilities which are provided and maintained by the Department of Public Works, PB&R, and our many volunteers. And whereas the City of Pacifica urges all its residents to recognize that parks and recreation enriches the lives of its residents and visitors, as well as adding value to the community's homes and neighborhoods. Therefore, be it resolved, the City of Pacifica hereby proclaims that parks make life better in the month of July 2018 as Parks and Recreation Month, and in doing so, urges all citizens to use and enjoy taking advantage of our parks, beaches, and recreational opportunities. Done this 25th day of June 2018.
Good evening, council members. My name is Michael Perez. I'm your Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Department Director. And I just want to highlight a few things about our programs. And throughout the country, July is being celebrated as Parks and Recreation Month. And on behalf of the PB&R Department, the Parks Division of our Public Works Department, and all our Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Department Commission, we want folks to join us this July and the summer in general. So we have a lot of recreational opportunities for the community through our department programs, activities, parks, beaches, trails, and events. And a few things that are going on of note and coming up very soon is 4th of July. And on 4th of July, I know everybody wants to get up, join us at 9 a.m. in front of the community center. There's a 5-mile run. There's a lot of runners here, I'm sure. Starts and ends at the community center. If that's not for you, or maybe after you're done running, you'd like to come up to the park, we have our annual, which is our 45th annual 4th of July celebration from 11 to 4. Food, fun, games, and live music. At our senior center, we'll be offering a wide variety of ongoing activities this month in July, including a 4th of July celebration that happens on the 3rd of July. Mystery picnic trips, both July 17th and August 16th, and our rummage sales, of course, the 11th, 12th, 25th, and 26th. There's always a lot of good stuff to find there. Child Care's got a couple field trips this summer to Contra Loma, Cole Canyon, and they also have a really neat assembly with, they're called Wild Things Incorporated, and they bring a lot of very interesting animals to the program. They're also going to be taking a lot of local walking trips this summer, and as usual, we have childcare students attending recreation swim and taking swim lessons at Brink Pool. and they're going to finish up with a barbecue at Frontierland Park. And speaking of Brink Pool, we have a couple Wet and Wild water camps, which is a pretty unique program still, one July 9th and one the 30th. We're also offering swim lessons all mornings and several evenings for the next 6 weeks. Recreation swim is every day of the week from 1 to 3 this summer through August 5th, and every Wednesday through August 1st will be a free recreation swim for kids. So kids come free on Wednesdays. And if you come on Tuesday, we have a 2 for Tuesdays for children where a paying customer can bring a friend to the pool for free through August 1st. And there's a new drop in water polo program for ages 8 and up, which is Thursday night, 7:30. And the Pacifica Sea Lions also have free tryouts for the team every last week of the month throughout the year. In the rec division, adventure camps happening for children 8 to 12, 5 to 8, and 10 to 13 are various sign-up ages there. The Fairmont Adventure Camp starts on July 2nd, and we also have our second annual inflatable fun run, which is a giant obstacle course blown up, and you just run through it. And it's a guardian and child event, and that's going to be on Thursday, August 16th. So basically, I just want to say that summer's a really great time to get outside, get active, enjoy all the opportunities for self-directed activities such as taking a walk or ride on our scenic multi-purpose trail over by the beach. You can enjoy the afternoon at a local park, such as Frontierland Park, or you can hit the Roy Davies Playground up at Fairmont Park. Spending time at the beaches is always great. The dog park or the pier would be a great way to spend your day. And I just want to thank all of our hardworking and dedicated staff for all their efforts in planning and preparing for the summer. And we want to invite the community to join us in 2018 for a lot of fun and adventure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Sue Degree.
Right, to the Recreation Department and their families, because it takes the other part of the family as well. So there's really a lot of dedication there on part of our recreation staff and their families and volunteers, obviously. So I think sometimes maybe we consider recreation as fluff in our life, when actually the proclamation does a good job of focusing on how very important it is to our mental and physical health. So I really appreciate all the work, and you do the culture, and you do the history, and you do the recreation part, and it's a 12-month thing. So when most of us are saying, let's relax, you and your staff are working triple hard. And that goes for, because seniors, you have seniors that family members want to make sure seniors are taken care of. It's the recreation department that's doing that. And for families who say, oh my goodness, I have the children for 3 months, they're driving me crazy, it's because they're a nice little energy, and so that's the recreation department and staff and families that are allowing the children to be. So really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Deirdre Martin.
I just want to say thanks and congratulations. You know this, but I was raised basically in the Parks and Rec department back east, and which is why I wanted to be a commissioner, and I loved being on that commission. But really, all the things that you do on your nights and weekends is quite amazing. And 4th of July is one of my favorite events here. So make sure everybody gets out there and head out to that fog jog too. Is that the fog jog? Rocket Run.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a doozy, but we can do it. So.
Thank you, Deirdre. Sue Vadelas.
I want to say thank you also. My kids grew up in the whole, from daycare all the way up. My kids worked at PBNR, so we were heavily involved, and I thought, oh, I'm not using it now anymore. Of course I am. I walk, so I walk on the beaches too. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Sue. Mike O'Neill.
I just say thanks for all the people you help from, the daycare you run at the schools was excellent and well thought of, and all the way up to senior citizens, the whole gamut.
Yeah, I'm especially impressed with the senior programs, and I will see you on the 4th.
Definitely, we definitely want to invite all you to come. And I said it earlier, but I just want to highlight again that the Public Works Department is sort of the unsung heroes for all of our facilities, our beaches, trails, for the parks and all that stuff, and they don't get a lot of credit, and when something is broken, they get a lot of complaints, but they do a great job of making sure that not everybody wants to sign up for a program and they just want to sort of experience the self-directed, self-guided recreational events, and they really do a great job of that. And then, since I have the opportunity in the proclamation that preceded me, I just did want to publicly thank Wendy Tuckloff, because we have a really great partnership with the Pacific School District and the Recreation Department, and that has a lot to do with her, and the person following her has some big shoes to fill. So thanks, Wendy.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Are you getting pictures?
No picture?
Okay, on to the third proclamation of the evening. This one is somebody whose name I don't recognize, Kathy O'Connell, City Clerk. So I'll just read this. In appreciation of Kathy O'Connell on the occasion of her retirement. Whereas Kathy O'Connell is retiring from a public service career with over 20 years of exemplary service to the city of Pacifica, and whereas Kathy was hired in December 1997 as a part-time recreation leader and worked as a building supervisor with the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Department. I'm laughing because Kathy just didn't want this stuff in her proclamation. And whereas Kathy began her full-time service with the city in May 1998 with the city manager's office, most recently serving in her role as city clerk since 2005, and whereas Kathy has been an active member of the City Clerks Association of California and the International Institute of Municipal Clerks, and whereas Kathy has received the honor of recognition by State Senator Jackie Spear for Employee of the Year in the year 2000, and whereas Kathy has been recognized by the City of Pacifica executive team and fellow employees for her role in organizing outstanding employee recognition events and assisting with projects and events within the community, such as the 2004 Criminal Justice Council of San Mateo's Outstanding Contribution to Criminal Justice Awards Dinner, and whereas she has been instrumental in organizing the Council of Cities dinner meeting for city council members in San Mateo County during the City of Pacifica rotation as host for the event, and whereas Kathy has been praised for her calm, professional, and friendly demeanor in her service to elected and appointed officials, colleagues, and friends within the city and county, members of the public, and the Pacifica community. And whereas she is well respected and admired by her peers, she has faithfully and conscientiously served the city and its citizens. Kathy will be remembered and missed upon her retirement. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the City Council of the City of Pacifica hereby extends our heartfelt thanks and appreciation to Kathy O'Connell for her distinguished service to the city and the dedication with which she has carried out her duties and responsibilities, and wish her the best in all future endeavors. In short, she came, she worked, and she left. And she met a lot of nice people along the way. Enjoy retirement to the fullest. Done this 25th day of June 2018.
thank you all so much. So I'm going to try not to get emotional here. Thank you for the proclamation, and I think it's probably the first one I didn't have to write. And you know how I feel about proclamations. They're wonderful, but we do a lot of them, and I was like, please, John, don't put that in there. I just wanted to say that the last 20 years have been a journey, and it's really not about the start date or the retirement date, but all the years in between, the people I've met, and the friendships that will go far beyond City Hall. And I say that to all of you. I know that those relationships will continue to grow. And I am so thankful for that. For me, the biggest takeaway from my years with the city, besides my pension, is a true sense of community. And community is not just a group of people in a particular area. It's the people that we celebrate with. It's the people we lean on. It's our friends, our family, our coworkers, our neighbors. And so that is what I take with me. That is my Pacifica community. And again, I thank you all for the time I had with you. You're all doing a great job. Keep up the good work. I'll critique you from home. And I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy. Sue Degree.
Right, Kathy, so the proclamation is great. I'm glad, John, you put all that in there because your history with the city is very valuable for people to hear. And you went above and beyond, I think, in your duties because you did so much to help the employees. And I think we all appreciate that, helping our employees to be important to each other and to us is very, very valuable. And also the fact of the city clerk, I don't know if the public realizes this, but there's a lot of education, a lot of training that goes in before someone qualifies to be a city clerk. And I always view them as a personal citizen. I view the city clerk as one of the most important officers in government that protects the public voice, protects your window, your access to transparency of city government. And you've been very, 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 very good about that. And a very fair person all the way around. Your job is not easy, and it's sometimes more overwhelming than at other times, and you always keep an even keel. And the comfort is that we will see you around town. But thank you so much for your very hard and dedicated work.
Thank you, Sue.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. Mike.
Well, O'Neill talking to O'Connell.
Yeah.
I got to say is, to kind of follow up on Sue is that, yeah, she does have one of the jobs, like if we're getting sued, we're served or whatever. But as most of you probably know is that City Hall used to be a school. And when you walk into City Hall, you walk up the stairs, and the principal's office is where Kathy O'Connell sat. So you always had to go up the stairs to see God up there and to be sure that the T's were crossed, the I's were dotted when you fill out your papers to run for office, or you need to sign a legal document, a proclamation or contract or whatever when you're a mayor. She was the one that kept you on the straight and narrow, and I don't know, she and I used to sit and visit before we went. But the city clerk is the one that kind of keeps everybody on the straight and narrow, including the city manager. Well, the attorney sometimes helps, but she's only part-time. But anyhow, I do want to say thank you, Kathy. Your office was always fun to visit and chat, and say hello. And as I was walking down the stairs, kind of like the Waltons, I'd always say, "Bye, Kathy. See you later." So goodbye, Kathy, and good luck in your future. And I can hear why you're retiring right now. As one just went running down the hall.
Thank you, and I'm not going to be the full-time babysitter.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate your sentiment, and I'm going to miss those chats, Mike. Thank you.
Deirdre Martin.
Kathy, I've only got to work with you for like a year and a half now, but I've admired you from afar for a long time. And, you know, the voice, the face, everything that you see out there, Kathy really is behind the door, too. And, Kathy, you're just one of the smartest people that I know. There was never something you didn't know or that you couldn't find out, and you always made time. You always make time, even when there is no time, and I just find that such an amazing skill set. It's going to be really hard to find that. I feel like you're really the glue that the city needs. So whoever comes in is got, again, some really big shoes to fill, and I want to just thank you for being you and for your service to the city, and I hope to see you around town.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Deirdre.
Sue Varlas.
How am I going to fill out that Form 700 that we have to put in 20 times? You always made me not feel stupid. And I really appreciate you. Like Deirdre said, you're always happy, even when you have hundreds of public information requests that require massive amounts of work. You always take the time to talk to us as individuals. And I've talked to you for years, and I've always appreciated you for many, many years, and I will miss you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the city clerk is one of the most public faces of city government. And to have Kathy there, sort of a calming influence when a person might be upset about, God knows, almost anything, really. I think she may have helped calm down some people, maybe not all of them. I, like everybody else, have enjoyed our visits up there in the old principal's office. So.
That's got a better ring than the crow's nest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, good luck in the next phase of life and whatever it brings.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
Regarding the proclamations, I don't know anybody, I'd always say to anybody that we encourage to have a proclamation is, don't worry, Kathy will do a wonderful, you will be happy to put it on your wall. We always did wonderful proclamations.
Whereas
Yeah.
the proclamation was written by Kathy. Yeah.
Okay. But now, we have a city council meeting to continue. And next is the consent calendar. I have no speaker cards for any items on this consent calendar. Mike,
Unless there's a change, I move that we accept the consent calendar as stated.
Sue Vitalos seconds. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. Okay, now we have oral communications for the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda. Yeah, I have two cards. First one is Randy Wang, I think. And if I got your name wrong, I apologize. And following Randy, Shalyn Craig.
Well, good evening. My name is Randy Wong, and I'm at Breathe, California, and also here with the San Mateo County Tobacco Education Coalition. I'm here just to give a couple comments about interesting you in the issue of smoke-free multi-unit housing, like apartment buildings, condo buildings, and the like. I'd just like to start out by mentioning one statistic that I think will be very encouraging to all of you, that the state a couple years ago released some estimates of the adult smoking prevalence in each county. And San Mateo County is estimated right now to have a prevalence of 6.6%, which is estimated to be the lowest of any county in California. So that's something that I think we should all be really proud of. One thing, though, in all of that is that as our smoking rates are going down, there's still the issue of secondhand smoke that, really affects people who aren't smoking. And one of those major places is within people's homes in multiple unit housing, where windows are really close together, and there are all these other sort of features of multiple unit housing that help facilitate smoke traveling between units. So something just that we're really, in the County Tobacco Education Coalition, really interested in helping cities, if they would like to decide to consider policies, to give information and kind of support about that. One last thing that I'd like to mention is that, we found that a lot of times we've done so many policies in San Mateo County about tobacco. In Redwood City, which is the most recent city that passed a smoke-free multi-unit housing ordinance, we've been helping out with education in the time period between when it was passed and when it will go into effect in about 6 months. And last week I was talking with a man who lives in multi-unit housing in Redwood City who is a smoker. He said, that might be the one thing to help me quit. So, thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Shalyn Craig, followed by Anita Reese, followed by Tiger Jazz Big Stick.
Good evening. My name is Shalyn Craig. I work at YLI Youth Leadership Institute, and I do alcohol, tobacco, and other drug prevention programming with our youth throughout the county. I'm also here as part of the Tobacco Education Coalition with my colleague Randy and one of our youth, Erica, who's sitting back there. And I'm here to give you a quick update from the coalition. One of our big wins that we just had recently, which you may or may not have heard about, is earlier this month on June 5th, the Board of Supervisors unanimously voted to adopt an ordinance to prohibit the sale of flavored tobacco products and to prohibit pharmacies from selling tobacco products. So this is a great win, especially in our efforts in tobacco prevention and taking a really strong stance to protect our youth from targeted marketing by the tobacco industry, as historically they have been targeted, right? And so just to add on to what Randy mentioned about San Mateo County having the lowest smoking rate in the state, it's amazing, it's awesome. And given all of that and sort of our recent wins, it's clear that we often set an example for other counties and the rest of the state when it comes to tobacco control and prevention efforts. And so, again, a big part of our efforts are also reducing exposure to secondhand smoke through policies like smoke-free multi-unit housing, which a lot of the county has already adopted policies around that. So we're looking forward to working with you all in the future around all of these issues, especially smoke-free multi-unit housing. You know, a lot of what draws people to our coastal cities, such as Pacifica, Half Moon Bay, Pescadero, is the clean air and the beautiful beaches. So, you know, we're really concerned about preserving that and protecting people, making sure they have clean air and that our beaches, our homes stay free of litter and secondhand smoke as well. So thank you. And yeah.
Thank you, Shaylin.
Thank you.
Anita Reese, followed by Tiger Jazz Big Stick.
Hello, Anita Reese with the Pacifica Resource Center, and I just wanted to remind folks that we are still enrolling folks for our back to school program. We can serve up to 150 students living in Pacifica, but we won't turn anybody away. The deadline is July 16th, and this is grade-specific school supplies and backpacks. We will have a list of items that we need posted on our website by July 6th. And we will also have a wish list on Amazon in case anybody wants to help with the items that we need for back to school. One thing that we need for sure is sturdy backpacks. And if you want to help now, before July 6th, when we have the whole list up, you can and have a membership to Costco. Costco has the best price for backpacks. It's a High Sierra backpack for $19.99, very sturdy, and they generally do go on sale for $17.99, but they are limited to 10 when they go on sale. So we end up having to do a lot of coordination to get 150 backpacks. So anybody who wants to help with that, we would welcome it. We are asking that all of our back-to-school donations be received by July 25th so that we have enough time to order the rest of the things that we need in time. We will be packing and distributing on August 3rd and August 4th, so the 25th is the perfect deadline. We also have our upcoming Palmapalooza fundraiser. It's scheduled for Saturday, August 18th. The theme is Wild Wild West, and Western gear is encouraged. I have some awesome boots that you all will love, and hopefully you have some just as nice. And info about our fundraiser can be found on our website or by calling our office at 650-738-7470. And also to sign up for the Back to School program, give us a call, or you can even email us at info@pacresourcecenter.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Tiger Jazz Big Stick.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm Tiger Jazzer Twirls, Big Stick of Pacifica. There's no spot during a proclamation to say anything, so I wanted to use a moment at oral communications just to turn to Kathy one last time and say thank you for all you have done. I wish I had something more to say, but really what it boils down to is thank you and thank you and thank you, and that's what I got, so thank you.
And thank you, Tiger. On to council communications. Deirdre Martin.
Where are we? Okay. Oh, I was bummed to miss the Pacifica Resource Center plaque dedication that happened 2 weeks ago because it was the same night as our library advisory. But sounds like the plaques are in, so stop by there and check it out. I still have to do that, but I'm looking forward to it. The Library Advisory Committee met 2 weeks ago, and just want to remind everyone that we're still actively working on plans and working on what to present to the public. And just want to remind everyone that is a two-library model. So it's working on a library on this end of town and a library down at Sanchez. So keep your eyes peeled for those, library boards when they come up, and talk about that with your neighbors, and make sure everyone knows what the Library Advisory Committee is working on. Also, those meeting minutes are public, and you can always look them up yourself. The Pacifica Beach Coalition, coming up, we've got the July 5th cleanup. So everybody loves the 4th of July, but what about the 5th of July? Please, if you do not have work the next day, join us at 7 a.m. at one of your local beaches. Public Works will be there with all the groups that have sold the fireworks. And then subsequent Saturdays, they have to dedicate so many hours to it. The Beach Coalition will be there to help out as well. There will be buckets, there'll be gloves, but it's always appreciated for you to bring your own as well, where we get to pick up lots of firework debris. So just keep your eyes out for that. Also, the Beach Coalition, I don't know if you know, but does a lot of what they call give back days. Organizations like Genentech come into town and clean our beaches for an hour, and then the second hour they weed our crazy weeded areas. And most specifically, they've been working on the switchbacks between Rockaway and Lindemar beaches. There's been up to 12 givebacks already this year, and that's about 50 people that show up to our town to clean beaches and weed. They've also managed to plant native species all on the switchbacks. I think it's 5 so far, between Rockaway and Lindemar. So if you're standing down in that parking lot, take a look back. We're so used to kind of walking by it up close, but if you can stand back and look up and see what work has been done, you'll be amazed. So thanks to the Beach Coalition and all the organizations that come to our town, and the people that walk every day and do the same. So the Youth Leadership Institute, thanks Shellen for coming, and Randy. I met with them a few weeks ago, and if you haven't done so, I would recommend that you do, fellow council members. I think it's very eye-opening. The Board of Supervisors recently passed some new policy. I think it's also very telling that Daly City has a restriction on smoking in multi-unit housing. I've rented most of my adult life, and I just think this is key for people's healths and for our environment. We spend so much of our time picking up the #1 source of litter on our beaches is cigarettes. So this is just kind of so in our face here in Pacifica. So I would recommend everybody do that, and also that we start talking about potentially putting our own policy in place. We're ending budget season, in case you didn't know, probably tonight. So I just wanted to remind the folks who have been coming, asking us to look at our investments, what we're investing in. We've had folks show up talking about weapons industries. We've had folks talking about fossil fuels. So just so everyone knows, closer, July, August, we'll be looking at some of that stuff. We're having a third party come in, and just want to give you an update that it's still on our radar. It's not that we've forgotten about you, but budget season has taken all of our time, all of Lorenzo's time. And then just later this week, I'll meet with the CCAG Bike and Pedestrian Committee. We're going to be learning a little bit more about the upcoming grant cycle for next year. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Deirdre. Sue Vardalos.
I also went to the library committee, and you will start to see the designs around town, and people will again ask you questions about what you'd like to see in the libraries. I went to the City and County Association of Governments Legislative Committee, where we mostly discussed the results of the election. Also the CCAG Water Committee, which is forming a new collaborative water group to help with funding, because a lot of the funding necessary is cross-jurisdictional, so a lot of cities need to be involved with other cities instead of just making decisions on our own, and we can get larger grants that way. It's just starting, so it'll be a long process. I went to the ribbon cutting for Dr. Thomas, 25 years, chiropractic office, and that was fun. I went to the Pacifica Democrats where Mike told interesting facts about presidents and Congress, an amusing meeting. Also, with most of the rest of us, went to the sea level rise meeting on Saturday, which was long and a lot of questions were asked and answered. I also liked the addition of the Coastal Commission staff and their perspective, which changed things a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Mike O'Neill.
I attended this 2 sea level rise meetings and the Pacifica Democrats, as well as the Economic Development Commission meeting. And I also wanted to mention this Saturday, the wildfire, I hate to call it a presentation, but the discussion at the Lindemar Firehouse, and I'm sure the city manager will elaborate on that. So.
Thank you, Mike. Sue Degree.
So a lot of things have happened to the different committees, and one of the things is in 2019, in November, there's the anniversary of the Ohlone Portola Heritage Trail, or in some ways, you may be familiar with it as the discovery of the San Francisco Bay and Sweeney Ridge, which is in Pacifica. So we've been working with the county and the city regarding getting as accurate as possible historical trail for the Native Americans who the Portola's expedition followed us because there was trails already there. And so we're at that point now since it's the year before. You see the Highway 1 is being paved. We're starting to get into the sprucing up of Pacifica and reaching out to various businesses and hotels and whoever else in the city that can help have something for people to do besides just go to Sweeney Ridge. And so there's a lot of work going on with that, both in the city in particular, because we want Pacifica to stand out and not let all the economic benefits go to Half Moon Bay or Palo Alto or et cetera, or stay up on Sweeney Ridge and never come down here. So the Open Space Committee is working on things. The Economic Development Committee is working on things. We have like I said, there's a group of us working with PB&R on getting ready. So this is the last year to be revving up to do things. So the historical and the cultural aspects of Pacifica are ready to go. We just now need to figure out a way commercially to market things commercially so that when you go to a restaurant or go down the streets, you'll be seeing something in advance of this celebration. So locals and people from around the world will be coming to celebrate it. And along with that, it's been a long time we haven't had a connection with our sister city, which is the city of Portola. And I can never say the name of it. In Spain, northern Spain, Bellalager, whatever. So we're hoping to get that going again, to have that type of a connection. Although they're in an area of Spain that wants to secede from Spain, so we're not so sure they'll pay much attention to our celebration. However, the Open Space Parkland Committee did choose 2 people for the award. There was open nominations for that, and so this year they have chosen to give the award to 2 people you may know very well who have been very, very active and supportive of our natural assets here in Pacifica, and that's Paul Jones and former City Council member Julie Lancel. The issue with the San Francisco airport continues. We are not letting up on that, and ongoing saga. The other thing that I've been hearing a lot about, so I do as much extra research as I can, and it's fresh water. So as much as we're worried about sea level rise and everything, one of our biggest concerns needs to be, and Sue's with that group with CCAG, which is working on that too, but I'm thinking of local attention and valuing of fresh water, how very important fresh water is. And along with that, for human habitation, we have to have a really good sewer system. So kind of, those two things actually go very much together, and they're very important. So I'm encouraging Pacificans, because there could be water wars, so Pacificans to value the importance of fresh water and the importance of adequate sewage, so that we are on the forefront and we don't become second fiddle to anybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Deirdre, second go-around.
I apologize, I did forget one thing sitting right in front of me. We all received a letter from kindergarten class at Ocean Shore, and I just wanted to read that out loud. And the note from the teacher was, council members have been working with our kindergarten classes on persuasive writing. The kids were asked to identify a problem and write a letter to convince people to solve the problem. You are the audience we chose. I hope we can convince you to do away with single-use plastic straws. The letter reads from the children, Dear Pacifica City Council, we are Jennifer's kindergarten class at Ocean Shore. We think plastic straws should be banned in Pacifica. They are bad for the environment. Animals can eat them and get hurt. Straws make a lot of litter. People could use reusable or paper straws instead. Sincerely, the entire class signed the whole thing. So I just also thought this was pretty timely because it was brought up at our last council meeting, and also was brought up as one of our city goals, was to discuss and talk about the ban of single-use plastics or straws. So I just want to make sure everyone knew about that we've got the support of this kindergarten class as well. Thank you.
Very persuasive letter.
She did her job.
Let's see, I attended the CCAG board meeting, and just today the CMEC meeting, the congestion management and environmental quality, along with Mike O'Neill. I also attended the ceremony to not unveil the plaques, but to just admire the plaques, I guess, that Deirdre referred to at the Pacifica Resource Center. Attended the adaptation plan workshop for sea level rise as part of our local coastal plan that everybody's talking about. Attended the Pacifica School District Goodbye Hello party, where it was goodbye to Wendy Tukloff and hello to Heather Olson, the new superintendent of Pacifica School District. And I also attended the Pacifica Gardens 10th anniversary celebration, which it happened on Saturday. It was a beautiful afternoon, and read a proclamation there too, and it was well received. And I just have to thank them for all they've done on their garden. It's just fantastic. So, yeah. I want to talk just briefly about asylum seekers at the border. This is just beyond cruel. I mean, it is just a cruel policy, like many others of Mr. Trump's administration. And these people have come to our country because their own country is taken over by gangs, and their kids are being forced to join those gangs, and rather than have that happen, they leave. And many of them know that when they get here and announce themselves to the Border Patrol, I mean, they do, they announce themselves that they will be separated from their children, but that's still better than staying. And I just, this policy, I just can't stand it, and so I have to say something. So that's all I have. thank you. Staff communications.
Thank you, Mayor Keener, council members, Kevin Woodhouse, city manager. A few announcements. First, I'll begin with the upcoming event that Councilmember O'Neill mentioned, and that's this Saturday, the 30th, is a wildfire preparedness informational event from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Lindemar Fire Station. And it's sort of a drop-in event with tables of information to provide that information and education to citizens or residents of Pacifica about how they can be prepared in the event of a wildfire. And it's a real collaboration of North County Fire and the Police Department and County Emergency and our Disaster Preparedness Commission and others, so and CERT as well. So that's 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock this Saturday. Additionally, right around the corner is the 4th of July, as everyone is aware, and I want to take this opportunity to remind everyone that Pacifica takes enforcement of its municipal codes regarding illegal fireworks very seriously, up to $1,000 or a $1,000 fine for use of illegal fireworks. And you know, really the bottom line is safety of residents and safety of our community. So you know, have fun, but in a safe way, and using safe and sane fireworks if you choose to use fireworks, and not illegal fireworks. Those two. I guess while I have the mic, I want to say a couple words of thanks to our city clerk, Kathy O'Connell. So, you know, I've been able to work with Kathy for about 8 months now, and when I showed up here, she was incredibly welcoming and incredibly supportive. And from a city manager's perspective, and many of you mentioned this from the city council member's perspective, the city clerk and the professionalism of a city clerk is really what is the process glue to allow our local government democracy to work. From preparing agendas, from getting them out the door, to, you know, all of our meeting minutes, to responding to Public Records Act requests, to what else is on my list, to being the policy library of the city. I can't say how many times I've come to Kathy, being new here, saying, do we have a policy about this or that? And, you know, Kathy's able to find it immediately in our system. And, you know, without a great city clerk, our system moves slowly. And without a clerk at all, it grinds to a halt. So on that note, you'll have noticed that we're doing some cross-training last council meeting, at this council meeting, for a couple folks related to city clerk position, and we'll be conducting a recruitment, and we will have a new clerk that will try to fill the big shoes that Kathy's going to be leaving behind. So again, sorry to take the public time, but I just really wanted to thank you.
John, I just wanted to take to kind of take off on Kevin. I received, and I'm sure a lot of people in Pacifica received, the letter from PG&E and wildfires. And it just happens to be a coincidence that we have the this wildfire awareness thing on Saturday. So I would encourage everybody to go and get a look at what you can do. And it's surprising how many ornamental shrubs you have in your house or on your property that are quite flammable. So it just happens to be a coincidence. We got that letter from me. I don't know, did you guys all get it? Yeah. You get the letter, and we have to have the, and we're having that event on Saturday.
Okay. Now we have two public hearings. The first one is on the Pacifica Hotel Business Improvement District. So we have to approve the program of expenditures and assess the levy for the fiscal year 2018 and 19. And do we have a staff report? Okay.
It's a very brief staff report, yes. Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thomas Myers, Economic Development Manager. Item 11 on your agenda is to conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution confirming the annual report from the Pacifica Hotel Business Improvement District, approving their program of expenditures and assessing the levy for fiscal year 2018-2019 at the same rate levied in fiscal year 2017-18 without change. Our recommendation is to conduct a public hearing, to rule on oral or written protests, if any, and finally adopt a resolution confirming the annual report of the Pacifica Hotel Business Improvement District Advisory Board and continuing the assessments levied in fiscal year 17-18 without change in fiscal year 18-19. And it's my understanding from the city clerk that we have not received any oral or written protests to this point before the public hearing.
That's correct. No protests have been received as of the public hearing date.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Sue DeGree.
Just a question for the public, I think's benefit. The role of the BID.
The role of the bid is to the, assessments are collected from the bid, which then are spent by the the Pacifica Chamber of Commerce to promote hotel stays, to promote tourism and economic development within the city of Pacifica, and to make sure that the hotels are represented both in the city and throughout the region.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council?
I do have a comment. Nobody has any.
Yeah, you have to wait a second for that. So I have no speaker cards for this public hearing. If there is anybody that wishes to speak, I don't see them though. Okay. Sue?
Right, so as the economy's getting better.
Just to make clear, are you closing the public hearing?
Yes.
Yeah, so as the economy's getting better, I remember that one time we had a visitors bureau, and if the city and the chamber, or one or both of them, our responsibility as a city, is to work on having a visitors bureau, especially during the weekend, because right now we don't have anything during the weekend. And I noticed that people, especially in the Rockaway area where the hotels are, people are looking for, where can I go for this, what can I do for that? And at one time we had a much more rigorous open door at the chamber itself, which helps the visitors bureau. So I would hope that as we move forward, we look into that as a city in cooperation perhaps with the BID and the chamber to get on that a little bit more.
Any other comments? Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the bid as stated. Report.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay. Motion by Mike, second by Deirdre. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. Okay, we have another public hearing. This is an appeal by the Sky Ridge Homeowners Association of the decisions of the PBNR Commission to uphold the appeal of the heritage tree removal application number HT-008-18 and disapprove the removal of trees. And we are wanting a staff report on this, first of all, but also we should, in that staff report, make it clear which way is which that we're ruling, okay?
Thank you for that.
So,
You ready?
staff report. Yeah.
Good evening, council members. My name is Michael Perez. I'm the Director of Parks, Beach, and Recreation Department. And with me tonight are the Public Works Parks Superintendent Aaron Clark and our Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission Chair Mary Beer. So we have kind of a two-pronged staff report, and Mr. Clark is going to start off, and I'll finish up that.
Hi, I'm Aaron Clark with the Public Works Department. And on January 16th, 2018, the Sky Ridge Homeowners Association applied for a permit to remove 5 stone pine, Pinus pinea trees on the property located north of Sharp Park Road along Skyline Boulevard. These trees are considered heritage trees as defined in Pacifica Municipal Code Section 4-12.02. As such, a permit is required to remove or destroy the trees pursuant to Pacifica Municipal Code 4-12.04. The reason stated in the application for the proposed tree removals is safety. The application also lists 6 New Zealand Christmas trees, 2 willow trees, and an additional stone pine for pruning. The permit, if issued, states that all pruning is to be done in accordance with International Society of Arboriculture guidelines. Routine pruning that adheres to the ISA guidelines is not considered substantial and does not require a permit. The permit also requires the replacement of each of the 5 trees to be removed with the same species of tree. The trees to be removed had removal notices attached to them on April 19, 2018. A member of the public, Mr. Steve Ellsworth, as per his request, was sent a letter informing him of the posting of the removal notices. The city received 3 appeals relating to the removal of the trees, one from Steve Ellsworth, one from Elwood Johnson, and one from Jesse and Joan DeRosa. In accordance with Pacifica Municipal Code, Section 4-12.09, a notification of the appeal hearing scheduled for May 23, 2018, was sent to each appellant and the Sky Ridge Homeowners Association on May 16, 2018. The trees that the Sky Ridge Homeowners Association seeks to remove are all approximately the same size. They stand about 25 feet tall and have an average trunk diameter of approximately 19 inches when measured 2 feet above the root flare. 4 of the trees, attached pictures 1 through 4, are located in an open space area east of Sea Spray Court. They show signs of root failure and have substantial leans to the west. These trees can most easily be viewed by walking east from the visitor parking area between 526 and 532 Sea Spray Court and looking south from behind the buildings. The 5th tree to be removed is located at 205 Sunset Court. It's attached is a picture of tree number 5. This tree does not have the same degree of lean as trees 1 through 4, but does show signs of root failure and is leaning over a parking area.
So the Municipal Code Section 4-1209, per this section, the PBNR Commission considered the appeal at a duly noticed public hearing on the 23rd of May, and all 3 appellants were in attendance, and at the hearing, Mr. Clark was also there, and he had agreed with the applicant and recommended the approval of the tree removal permit due to the potential safety risks. And the commission heard from the appellants, Mr. Ellsworth and Mr. Durazo, as well as some members of the public. The Sky Ridge Homeowners Association representative did not attend this meeting. The Parks, Beach, and Recreation Commission felt that these trees did not pose a safety problem at the time, and while they're awkward looking, seemed fairly stable. And the commission ultimately decided to uphold the appeal and deny the application to remove the trees by a vote of 4-1. There were 2 commission members absent that night. So based on this, the decision of the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission may be appealed to the council by filing a notice of appeal. And there's some information about that within 7 days. And the appeals shall be heard and determined according to the procedures set forth in Chapter 4. And the council may approve, disapprove, or modify the decision of the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission, including any condition it may have imposed. The Sky Ridge Homeowners Association filed a timely appeal on the 25th of May, and stated in their appeal that the removal of the trees is necessary for the safety of the persons and property of the Skyridge Homeowners Association. In addition, they stated that while the Public Works and Planning Department has received an appeal from the owners, or from owners within our association requesting the tree removal permit not be issued, it would appear that their reasons are not related specifically to the stone pines, but some other tree removal issues which are not within the authority of the association. Staff continues to recommend the approval of the removal of the 5 trees due to the potential safety risks. And as I said earlier, an alternative action could be that you may refer this, or actually I didn't say this, you may refer this as an alternative action back to the Parks, Beach, and Recreation Commission. And our chair is here also, and Mr. Clark and myself to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. Sue Vadalas.
I mean, looking at these pictures of these trees, I did go up there, but I didn't end up having time to go look at the trees themselves. But when you look at the pictures, they are totally at angles that are not proper for trees. So you assessed the trees yourself and found that they are hazardous, the trees?
I've looked at the trees, and I think they meet the criteria for removal, yes. They appear to have fallen over some time, not fallen over, but the lean was some time in the past, because they have the first 4 trees have what's called a corrected lean, where they've turned upwards. It means it must have happened some time in the past. But they've gotten large enough now to where the roots are exposed on the backside of the trees. There's soil upheaval, which means dirt has been pulled up from the ground. And I don't think in their current condition they're safe. The 5th tree does not have a corrected lean, and I looked at it again today. There is some roots that are pulled out of the ground on that tree also. And I think removal is certainly a reasonable option.
Also in the code, it says that they will be replaced with the same type of tree. And in one of the letters we received, one of the comments was that maybe it's not the proper tree to have there. Is there any consideration to changing the type of tree, or also the size of the tree that will be replacing the existing trees, if they are cut down?
I haven't, nobody specified the size of the tree. There are certainly options on that. It can be specified, I'm sure. As far as changing the species, I would certainly not advise against it, but that's the planning department is involved in that. I'm not in the planning department. Those trees were specified in the original landscape plan, and to alter that would be a process that I'm not exactly sure how that's done, but it's something that could be pursued by the homeowner association.
Thank you.
Deirdre Martin.
Aaron, do those trees generally lean, or is that just a product of the environment?
No, I would guess that they probably, when you first plant a tree, the roots aren't very established. When you take a tree out of a pot, the root, any tree that comes out of a container, the root ball is substantially smaller than what would be on a tree that grew naturally in the wild, and it takes usually 2 years, maybe 3, for the roots to really get established. It depends on how well they were planted. A lot of times they aren't planted properly. They just dig a hole and put a tree in, and the trees continue to behave as if they're in a pot. Most likely, in the first couple of years, at least trees 1 through 4 probably kind of fell over when they were very small, and nobody corrected that, and it was just left to grow that way. It's unfortunate, but that looks to be what happened.
So it's just kind of a product of its environment there?
Yeah, it's just bad luck.
So I also wanted to ask Chair if you had anything to add on this, Chair of the PB&R Commission.
Yeah, actually I do. You know, it's our job as a commission to really look at everything and consider all options and all angles before we make a decision. And the one thing that we were not able to do was to speak to the homeowners association because they weren't present. So I think that had a lot to do with some of our decisions. And we also asked most of the questions that Sue Bartolos just asked too. So yeah, that's what I have to add.
Okay, thanks. And then the last question I have is, we have a packet of of letters here. They're all the same letter that have different signatures and addresses on it. Can you explain to me what this letter is saying? Because I actually am confused by it. And I don't know if it's just that the letter says, we support, please enter in the record the request for the city council to uphold PB&R Commission's decision to uphold the appeal of a heritage tree removal. So are these folks they're supporting the decision by the PB&R, is that correct?
Councilmember, it's my understanding that these letters are from people who have, some of them at least, have filed an appeal, so it may be more appropriate to ask them to comment upon the content of their letters if they choose to speak during a public hearing, and if council determines to proceed with the public hearing.
Okay, thanks. So I will put that out there now. If there's anyone from the public that has signed one of these letters, I would recommend that you put your name in to speak so we can hear what you have to say on this.
And there is,
Great.
yes. Sue DeGree.
So this is question time, right?
Yes.
So one of the statements I wasn't clear on what it meant, so it was one of the last statements was that something was not within their authorization, and I didn't catch that whole thing, but I didn't understand it when I was listening to it. It was towards the end of your report.
Something was not within there.
It came after the HOA felt it was necessary, safety.
I believe I was, the homeowners association, in their appeal, they stated a reason for that appeal of the commission's decision. And their appeal was they felt that it was necessary for the safety of persons and property of their homeowners association. In addition, they stated that while Public Works and Planning Departments have received appeals from owners within their association requesting the tree removal permit not be issued, it would appear that their reasons are not related specifically to these stone pines, but some other tree removal issues which are not within the authority of the association. So that was what the homeowners association stated in their appeal of the PB&R Commission's decision.
So am I to understand that their HOA is assuming that the folks living there that are upholding the PB&R, that they're actually talking about some trees that are not the same trees? Am I understanding that correctly?
No, there are other tree issues up there, and Mr. Ellsworth and I are, discussing that matter further. But the homeowners association is well aware of the trees we're discussing tonight. There's no question about that.
Yeah, so that was just,
I believe Councilman DeGree might be referring, we've received previous letters from Mr. Ellsworth, and there was a contractor cutting down trees that are not on the property or under the control of the homeowners association. So what they're saying in their appeal is that these people are complaining about these trees, but their real issue is with the other trees that are not on the association's property.
that's what I thought I heard.
Oh, okay, I didn't understand you. Sorry.
Which is confusing to me. But anyway, that was my question, and I'm still confused about that.
Yeah. And like I say, we'll get a chance to hear from them in a few minutes.
Can I just make one, it's important that you're not confused, though, on the trees that we're talking about.
When people speak,
Okay,
maybe it'll
okay.
work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I didn't see where, I guess one of my questions, and I don't want an answer now, would be, were there other alternatives that the HOA recommended for the trees rather than taking them out? So you don't need to answer that now, but that's one of my questions.
And I have a question about the safety angle on these trees. It does appear that what the commission said was that they looked awkward but seemed fairly stable, and I agree with that, just from the looks of it. And you know, the way they've grown sort of supports that in a way that, that they have had time to compensate for their, you know, horizontal growth by sending out, you know, vertical leaders again. And this has been going on for quite a few years from the looks of it. And so I wonder what the potential safety risks, either that you see or that the homeowners association, who I will call on shortly, see.
Well, again, it's just a matter of opinion. I agree. I think that the trees at this point do represent a risk. They're continuing to grow. I think maybe 5 years ago they didn't represent a risk. And you are correct that a tree does adapt to its growing conditions. And there is some literature saying that a natural lean is not necessarily something to worry about, but I tend to sway in the other direction with trees that are leaning, especially when they're, one of the trees in particular is, when it goes over, it's definitely going to hit the house. It's going to break the windows. It's going to break the back glass door, and you know that's fairly substantial damage.
Which tree is that?
I think that's tree number
4.
2. I think is probably one of that's one that's most leaning toward the house. A couple other members are leaning over yards, which less likely to cause as much damage. The one, tree number 5, of course, is leaning over a parking lot, but it is a visitor parking lot, so it's probably not occupied all the time. I do want to be clear, too, that if we issue a removal permit, it doesn't mean that the homeowner association has to remove the trees. It's just saying that we think that that option should be available to them in terms of dealing with these trees. I don't think the trees are safe in the configuration they are now. If the homeowner association wants to pursue other options besides removal, that's okay. But having looked at them, I don't think that they're going to have a lot of luck with a pruning option on a lot of these trees. So that's just my opinion. And they're going to continue to grow. And I think to not do something would not be a good idea.
Okay. All right. So tree number 2 has the potential for actual damage to the house, and the others somewhat less damage to the surroundings?
It's hard to predict damage. They're leaning over yards, and
okay,
if somebody were in the yard when the tree fell, that obviously would be a problem. But then, what are the odds of that? Because most likely, if these trees were to fall, it's more than likely would happen towards the end of winter when the ground is saturated and the trees are heavy from water, and it's probably going to be in a storm when nobody's going to be outside. But there's no guarantee on any of these things, but that's the most likely scenario.
Okay, thank you. Mike O'Neill.
Okay, now you said the roots were unstable, or I forget the exact term, but basically, but the trees are still quite green. Is there a possibility that if the roots are going to die and that this tree could actually be a fire hazard at some point because of it being dead or the roots dead?
No, the trees they're healthy. There's no issue with the health of the trees. It's just the structure, the stability is the only issue.
Okay, so the roots are still viable.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they're still kind of messed up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to hear from the
Mayor.
appellant.
Mayor Keener, if I
Yeah.
may, I just wanted to point out that as an alternative to conducting the public hearing pursuant to Municipal Code Section 1-4.04, council may refer the matter back to the Parks and Recreation Commission for reconsideration.
Uh-huh.
So I just wanted to point that out as a recommended alternative action.
Can I also make a comment at that? Is that, that the commission's 7-member, correct? And there was 5 members in attendance the night that the vote went down, just as a point.
So can we refer this back to the PB&R Commission after a public hearing?
Well, the code section says, and again, it's section 1-4.04, any appeal which is heard by the council may be heard and considered in one of the following ways. Number 1, by holding a public hearing with notice being given in such a manner as required by the government of the state or local regulations, or 2, by referral back to the board, commission, or employee involved for reconsideration. So by reading that section, I would say the council can do one or the other.
Either hold a hearing or, yeah.
Refer back, correct.
Question.
Do the council members have any preference?
I have a question.
Okay.
So
Agree.
if we choose to go with a hearing, then as part of our deliberations, we're not allowed to send it back to PB&R or to planning, one of the two?
Well, this code section talks about an either-or situation.
So that would be a no.
Yes, so if you proceed forward with the public hearing, then council will retain discretion to make the final decision. If you decide to refer it back to the commission, then you should not conduct the public hearing.
Okay. Deirdre.
My preference would be to send it back to PB&R. Tree appeals are kind of a big deal for the PB&R, and as a former commissioner, I think that they're given very thorough investigations, very thoughtful. It's something that is taken very seriously, like the chair said here, and I'd love to see a 7-member commission that night for a vote, so I would just recommend trying to get a 7-member that night, and that would be my preference. That's it.
Mike O'Neill.
A question is, if we send it back to the PB&R Commission and whichever side doesn't like that decision, would it then come back to us?
Right, decisions from the PB&R are appealable to council, so theoretically, yes, it could come right back to you.
Okay, I see no point in sending it back to PB&R because there was, it was what, 4 to 1 with 2 missing. So even if the 2 were there, that would not change the outcome, just by simple math. Am I correct?
Yes.
Is it
So
okay if
Mary looks like she has discovered the new math.
But there was a section that we didn't get to explore that night. So we didn't get to ask the homeowners association any questions at all. So we don't really know if the responses are going to be the same when you send it back.
Okay.
Is the homeowners association present here?
Yes, they are, but just a minute, Mike.
Okay. No, I'm just asking to see if they're here. Yeah.
We're not ready to actually have the public hearing yet.
He has a good point. But also, so does Chair.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts on how to proceed here, whether to send it back to PB&R or to hold the public hearing?
I stand by my send it back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for those that showed up, I apologize.
I feel bad for all the people who came here tonight.
Yeah.
Expecting to talk about this, and then we're gonna send them away for another 2 months down the line to go back to PB&R, to maybe come back to here.
Yeah. Sue? Do you have
Well,
any
because
thoughts?
the HOA is here, yeah, HOA is here to answer, so they would be hopefully there to answer. I wouldn't want to waste time if they didn't show up there. I'm more inclined to,
Didn't the first time.
right, I'm more inclined to let's deal with it because they are here, and like I said, there was no other, we're hearing that the trees are healthy. Is there no other thing that they could offer to the residents than get the permit and get them out? So I'm inclined to go with tonight.
And so am I. So,
So am I, just for the record.
okay, great. So we'll proceed with the public hearing, and I'll open it, and we will hear from the appellant first, who is the Sky Ridge Homeowners Association. And usually in these matters, we give you 10 minutes.
That'll be adequate.
You don't have to use it all if you don't need it.
My name is Cliff Bates. I'm hired as the association manager. Let me say that it's an error and a mistake that we weren't at the PB&R. We had short notice. We thought the facts were very clear. It was a fail of judgment on those making the decision. The board of directors asked me to come here. They reviewed and prepared this statement. The Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission did receive recommendations from the staff to approve our request for permit to remove the 5 stone pine trees. These trees were planted by Western Pacific Housing approximately 20 years ago, 1997, with the subdivision's improvement plans that were approved by the city at that time. The definition of a heritage tree does provide protection to these trees as a result of the trunk circumference. But I want to make the difference between these are not native trees that had been there for many years. They were planted by this subdivision. While we support the municipal code's protection of heritage trees, we ask that exception be made and allow the removal of these 5 trees. We've been told to replace in same kind, but we'd certainly entertain different trees. We have enough land that we can put these out on an area that they won't put at risk the property that as these do. These are the reasons that we ask for you to make this decision. The trees show substantial root damage. The species of the trees is known for shallow roots. The trees are leaning and can and will cause damage to homes, fences, personal property, and even possibly persons. The trees have been reviewed by a licensed arborist employed by Butler Tree Service, and his recommendation is removal. The other options for pruning, he says, will not relieve this problem. The city staff has reviewed all the facts in the field and supports the removal of the trees. We're committed to replace the trees in the common area in a location so they will not be a potential risk to property in the future. Speaking to the authority here, you may be aware of this, but the authority and responsibility to manage the maintenance of the property owned by the Homeowners Association rests with the Board of Directors of the Sky Ridge Homeowners Association. This is not an opposition of one group wanting to save trees and the other to remove trees. This is a decision of the homeowners who are elected by the homeowners doing what they think is best for the property. To take these samples of trees out, pay for the problems they've caused to this point, put in new trees that can survive and do well. We understand that there was opposition to the issuance of the permit presented by at least 2 property owners at the hearing of the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission. It does not appear that their opposition has merit. Their opposition seems to be based on a prior cypress tree, a very large cypress tree, that was removed by an adjacent property owner. We had nothing to do with that removal. We weren't aware of it. We were surprised by it. It happens beyond the Westboro Water District's land, right adjacent to us and along Skyline. It has no bearing on this request of ours, in our opinion. So again, we support the staff's recommendation to allow the HOA to remove the 5 trees due to the potential safety risks to the homes, fences, personal property, and possibly even persons.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from council? No?
I do have a question.
Okay.
So when you mentioned the water district, was that a homeowner that did that, or was that the water district that did that?
Yes, it's been explained to me the water district had a request to remove a tree.
Thank you. That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Okay, and if we have more questions, we'll call you. Thanks a lot. And now I have 2 speaker cards from the public. Steve Ellsworth, followed by Benningfield, no first name. Steve Ellsworth? Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Mayor Keener,
Yes,
Mr. Ellsworth was an appellant at the Parks,
that's
the
right.
PBNR, so he should receive the equivalent amount of time as the actual appellant at this hearing.
Okay,
And before I start my
fine.
10 minutes, can I address the first council member's question about the letters? Or the
Sure.
letters were all written by people wanting to support.
Can you put
the
your
PB&R.
microphone up, please?
Yeah, yeah.
These letters were written by all of the neighbors in the homeowners association, owners of homes that are very adjacent to this tree, and they want to support the PB&R's decision to not remove the trees and to uphold my appeal. So if you read it, it says, please enter it into the record for the city council to uphold the Park, Beach, and Recreation Commission's decision, which was to not allow the removal of the trees.
Thank you for the clarification on your appeal. Thanks.
You're welcome. I'll begin my 10 minutes now, please.
Yeah.
Your Honorable Mayor and City Council, my name is Steve Ellsworth. I live at 605 View Ridge Drive, and I want to first start by thanking the Parks, Beach, and Recreation Commissioners for upholding our appeal to deny the Sky Ridge permit application to remove the heritage trees. I'm not asking for anything more than what's contained in the city's heritage tree ordinance. I agree with the Park, Beach, and Recreation Commission's decision that these trees are not a safety or a danger to property. I hope the City Council upholds their decision tonight. I know that they took their time to take the consideration of our appeal, especially the Parks and Beach Recreation Commission Chair. She made a personal site visit and did not see a safety issue or danger of any of the trees falling on any of the homes or property. I appreciate their letting me talk and hear the appeal. I think they are all doing a great job, especially since the HOA manager and the board of directors of our own association failed to appear at their own permit hearing. The HOA management response in the appeal of the PB&R decision, I would like to point out in your packet, now shows 4 trees, not 5. So I asked the question, in this packet, there's 5 photos of trees. So now are they cutting 4 or are they cutting 5? Again, this has been the basis of my complaint and my appeal to the city and described clearly in my appeal application. What are they doing? It was 5 at one time, it was 10, it was 19, who knows? I actually brought with me, and people keep saying it's only a New Zealand 6, a stone pine 6, a willow tree 2. It says cypress 3 if you look at the permit application. I've said over and over, and everybody denies that fact, but I'm holding the permit application. So again, I'm not asking the Skyridge Homeowners Association to do anything more than what's in the ordinance, but follow the regulations. I brought the ordinance with me, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, and I'll highlight some of the salient items. The city requirement is clear, and these trees are not a safety issue as described on the permit application as a reason for removal. I still do not see a certified arborist report or any other report stating that these trees are an imminent danger. There is no need to remove a tree when pruning is all that is required. I talked to Aaron before this meeting, and even in the commission meeting, he said the trees trimmed would not fall. So I know he says there's some root ball exposure and there's this, there's that, but his only concern is that the management association will not do their due diligence and maintain the trees properly, which is their requirement, not the cities and not the Park, Beach, and Recreation Commission. I could provide suggestions, and I'll wait till we get to the questions part. So let me continue. I don't understand how planting the same species in the same exact location is going to net a different long-term result either. Trees on hillsides of Pacifica lean, and most have some root ball exposed at one time and then replant themselves and have a corrective lean. I like to point to the pictures over here. If you look at most of the trees, they all have leans on them. At least I thought I did with my glasses. But if you drive down Shark Park Boulevard, almost every tree looks just like the trees they're suggesting to remove. This is natural to grow with the corrective lean. This is how trees in Pacifica grow with high winds and fog. The trees survived last year's torrential rainfall. I want to point that out. It's a critical fact. We were told that the trees got wet, the roots would give. We had the biggest rain ending our 7-year drought. And we had hurricane force winds ripping through our development and past those trees. I hung on the tree limb of all of those trees. I picked the one that they say is the most dangerous. It did not even budge. I weighed 210 pounds. I checked the durability on all the trees to check for weight shifting. I saw no weight shifting. I took Elwood Thomas with me on this hike, and he saw no shifting either. The trees did not budge, and even on the largest overhanging limb over the V-ditch, as shown in your packet, didn't move. I'm not going to come home again to see trees cut down like the heritage trees that they referred to earlier, the Westboro Water District deceitfully, if not illegally, removed. This was not the basis of our appeal. Our appeal are these 5 trees, not these other trees. These are just an example of what we come home to, and we just don't want to have this happen in our neighborhood. I viewed the most recent heritage Monterey cypress with the city arborist, and he confirmed that the contractor that was sent out did not follow his pruning instructions and cut the limbs that were not marked for pruning. So when I read meeting minutes that our board puts in, and you could take a look in your package and see a short blurb, Butler Tree will be back to remove trees, you can see why I'm standing here. I've requested for months this information, and I will show you the information I have not received. In my appeal, I've asked for copies of list of work with hashtags annotating locations on map, and never received it. Walking the Skyridge streets, they were never posted, clearly as per your own city ordinance. They now are posted properly, and they are per city ordinance, so that one is covered. Number 3 was, I have not seen any arborist reports as previously requested in writing to the city. That has not happened. Number 4 on my first appeal was, no biologist report has been prepared for the Monterey cypress and endangered species that habitat these trees. I also had sent pictures of red-tailed hawks that were displaced and owls that were actually probably killed. And the remains in their nests were left on top of the Westboro top of the building. I have pictures that I've sent to Aaron. He can confirm that. I also worry about these other trees having animals within them. The Westboro trees are a separate subject that I'll be taking up with the council at a later time. The property is 20 years old now, and you now have trees that are now approved. I brought the landscaped architecture plan, and thank you, I have to thank Kathy O'Connell. She did do a wonderful job for the city. She's put things in your packet for me, and she's provided me with all the information I have tonight. And in one of the things I pulled, all of these trees, all these little things here are what are called pinus trees. This is stamped by a licensed landscaped architect. This was the design, and this is the design as approved by the city of Pacifica. These trees were not planned to be removed. These trees were known to be drought tolerant. These trees knew that they could lean. The guy knew what he was doing, and apparently the city did too. This was also part of the EIR package, and the city planning has a huge box. I went through that package, and in the package, I don't want to lose time here, there was city council prior who had expressed their extreme concern that management association would not maintain the due diligence to maintain trees, and they expressed their extreme dissatisfaction and put paper clippings into the package of the EIR package, stating that they were concerned. The HOA manager, Cliff Bates, and the board members are arrogant. As you saw, they failed to appear at their own hearing. As far as I know, the HOA and board members are not above local law, state law, or federal law. And I'm looking you to city council to look at my original appeal to deny the permit application and see if they meet the requirements of the city. I do not believe they have. I'm going to speak faster. I had to wait for the city council public meeting packet to see the information that I had been requesting for months. The photos in the packet clearly show that there was no notice in front of the areas where those trees were to be removed. How would anybody know there was a tree removal ordinance prior to this meeting? It's relevant that the ordinance clearly say it's posted, and that's what the ordinance is for. If not, you get the situation that happened with the Westboro water tree along the Skyline area. We ask tonight that you uphold the permit denial, protect our heritage trees, and not allow our HOA or other residents of Pacifica to bypass the city ordinance for views or other reasons. I brought with me tonight letters showing that our neighbors do care and do not want any trees removed, period. These trees are not a safety issue and should be maintained by our association as per our governing CCNRs for maintenance and landscaping. There are similar leaning trees with a partial root ball exposed and leaning towards the roadway on the corner of Skyline Boulevard and Sharp Park at the corner of Oil Changers, and it looks no less safe than the tree marked for removal in the photo in your package. Based on that one photo alone in your packet, then most of the trees in the median and along Sharp Boulevard and all over city of Pacifica would be considered unsafe and would have to be removed as well, and this would set precedents to remove these leaning trees. The board is not above the city council, your decision tonight, or the Parks and Beach Recreation Commission's decision, and their failure to appear at their own personal hearing was quite telling, as the Commission Chairwoman stated at the Parks, Beach, and Recreation hearing. I duly request the City Council deny the HOA appeal. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions for him? We can, questions, yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with the workings of an HOA. Are those decisions made by majority? Is it a majority vote? The HOA?
Yes, there's 5 members on the board.
5 members on the board, okay. How many units are in the HOA? 50?
Maybe we could have the
Up to the
speaker
audience,
come
yeah.
up to the podium.
There's 5 members on the board and 95 homes in the association.
95 homes, okay. Is anyone here from a member on the board? Are you a member of the board? Or you're just representing?
I'm not.
Okay,
I'm their manager.
okay. And you said yes, the decisions are made by majority, so if it was a 4-to-1, then you would,
Correct. Well, they have a quorum requirement, but the night that this decision was made, all 5 were present, I believe.
okay. All right, that's my questions, thanks.
Okay, I have a few questions for Steve Ellsworth. At the beginning of your talk, you mentioned 4 trees, not 5.
In the appeal that they filed for this hearing to the council, it said 4, I believe, when I looked in the packet.
Oh, okay, okay.
And this is what I mean. Whenever I call Cliff and ask him questions, we don't get straight answers. We hear this, we hear that, and so.
And the cypress trees that you talked about being pruned incorrectly, not according to Aaron's directions, were those the cypress trees that were in the permit application?
I don't know, because I've never seen the detail that goes behind that. I've only viewed the 5 trees, the stone pine, which I find to be in safe condition and growing healthily. And if I could add, that when Aaron went out and talked to the neighbors where those trees were, the ones were the 4 that are the most contentious, the neighbors didn't even have a problem with them. They didn't even know the tree was an issue or that they were being cut or proposed to be cut.
Yeah, okay. How many letters total have you?
25.
25?
And that would be 25% of the development, a little bit more than 25%.
Yeah.
So our association doesn't always listen to our requests.
Yeah, so I gather. All right, that's all the questions from me. Anybody else have questions?
I do.
Sue Vadalas.
I'd like to ask the city attorney a question.
Thank you.
If we uphold this and the trees are not cut down, I'm assuming that we have no liability if these trees do fall down.
Right, as Mr. Clark mentioned, the city, once a permit is issued, the city doesn't have any control over the property, so we wouldn't do anything to enforce the removal of the tree. But I think you're asking about the discretionary decision tonight and whether there would be immunity. And yes, there would be immunity afforded to the city for our discretionary actions taken to either approve or deny a permit.
Okay, thank you.
Any others? Okay. I have 2 more speaker cards. And these speakers will get 3 minutes each, like the typical speakers. So Benningfield, no first name, and following him, Oscar Paines. And if I butchered your last name, hi.
My first name's Tony Benningfield.
Okay.
My wife and I moved into the neighborhood about a year ago. love the neighborhood. We simply, to be clear, this is going to be more specific than the rest of the trees. I live at 205 Sunset Court, so my concern was merely the tree directly behind our property. I think that's number 5 in the pictures. For context for these decisions, since you all don't live in the neighborhood, that particular tree is on a hill. Its lean is over guest parking spots. That court only has 7 guest parking spots. Neighbors do park there all the time. And that particular tree is over 3 of those parking spots. Also, my back fence. When it comes to a safety issue, I feel like I've spoken to the arborist. There's a lean. That particular tree does not have a corrective up lean. It's purely leaning also in the same direction that the wind comes into the neighborhood, which I would assume is bad. He's pointed to soil degradation. He's also said that the mitigating pruning he doesn't think would be a good idea. My concern as someone who did legal training in Boston, who did landlord-tenant stuff, like, do we need to shut down those 3 parking spots that are under the tree? Because the HOA is on notice now that there's a leaning tree with experts who have said this is a problem. As in the context of current events, Father's Day just happened. We had a discussion about parents on the border. I just found out I'm an expectant father. We don't have a lot of square footage in California. I'm from the East Coast where you have a little bit more of a backyard. If something happens, I would want to avoid. So thoughts about safety issue, there really is a safety issue. If it lands in my backyard, that's a problem. It's not a big backyard. It's measured in square feet, not acres. So all I can say is I see a leaning tree. The expert I've spoken with has recommended to me and to you all that it should be taken down, and I don't want to see anything happen to anyone's fence, car, or baby, or me. So seemed like a fairly straightforward issue to me. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Tony. Oscar Paynes.
It's actually Panis.
Panis.
It looks
Thank
like
you.
Haynes.
I'm
That's all
sorry.
right. So I'll be very brief. I only have one thing I need to say, and the house that you were all talking about where that tree is leaning over the property, that one tree, that one house, that's mine. And my only concern, you know, there's significant dollar amounts that are involved with property damage, but my biggest concern is the safety of my family. That tree is leaning over their bedrooms. And if it goes down in the middle of the night, they're not going to know anything except for the fact that there's going to be a 3-ton tree in their lap. So I don't care about any of the other trees. I just want that one tree behind 550 C Spray Court. I want it to be taken down. And I'm here to tell you right now, 210 pounds against a 3-ton tree doesn't mean any difference at all. So, you know, if I would really appreciate if you consider this, you know, with every consideration that you have, because I'm just here to speak for my family. And if they're in danger, I need to say something. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. Okay, bringing it back to council, closing the public hearing.
Mayor Keener?
Yes.
Before you close the public hearing, you may want to give the appellant an opportunity for rebuttal.
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Ellsworth, for this hearing, the appellant is the Homeowners Association.
Thank you for your attention. It's confusing, the back and forth that's involved. We had no intentions to take out any cypress trees. There's some pruning that shows on the paperwork that we put attached to our permit. We didn't need any permits for the pruning that was intended. That's all I want to make sure you understood.
Okay, thank you. All right, now I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Sue Degree.
So I still have some questions. So I was fortunately able to spend almost an hour going around to the different areas and getting out and walking. So I guess I went up pretty far myself, so I had to hang on to the tree to get down without slipping. And it did seem like a very firm and strong tree. When I first walked up there, I don't know which one it was. I think it was, I can't tell from these pictures because I think they were taken from a different angle than I was. I thought, uh-oh, the roots are totally up on the one. So I went from the parking space between the two that were listed in our packet, and I went up to the right, and it looked like, oh, the tree is so far over that the roots are showing like after a storm, like I've seen in some of the big storms recently, where the tree just falls over. And I think one time we did have one in Pacifica fell over on a house. But these roots, I think like Mr. Clark said, they've been growing that way for a while. So they were gnarly, but there were no ends of the roots. They are obviously in the soil. So then I looked at a couple others, and they were similar the same way. It might have been the one at 550, I'm not sure. It did look like it was going over towards the fence, but I know in numerous places elsewhere, they have braced these kind of trees. As somebody said, this is not unusual in windy areas for trees to grow in that. And as Mr. Clark mentioned, they looks like I would think that maybe when they were first put in, they were not watched carefully so that they did start to grow in the direction wherever, if there was a rain or something and the soil tipped, they went in that direction. So I don't know why it hasn't been considered of propping them up, so as the healthy tree continues to grow, it will then grow that way instead of growing over the fences. And that pruning, obviously, so in the meantime, it wouldn't go into somebody's house. So I guess my question is, if the soil, two things, looks like it's actually holding the soil, and then there's a big drainage ditch, which is now cemented. So I'm assuming that was because there is drainage from somewhere, and that could cause problems for the safety of the houses. And then looking at the land, there's, from the houses up above, it's not consistent as to the greenery. So there's some greenery growing really close to the soil, which my understanding of greenery is that it's holding the soil in place. And so that might be another mitigation, is that the soil itself have a little bit more root it's working for it, and a closer cover as well as the trees. I looked, even in that area, I went towards the north, and there's a tree that looked just too close to the fence, but that one wasn't marked. Nobody's talking about that. Over on the 305, do I have the address correctly, or 205? That one is not leaning quite as much, but there is another tree not far from there that has the very same bend, and to me would be needing more attention than the 205 one. So I'm wondering why some trees are being singled out and other trees right in the very vicinity are not. So I was looking at the health of the tree, and so as I came in at the top where the parking lot is cordoned off, I looked over there, and it was a different type of a tree, but there was a cracked tree, and you've all seen those in storms too. They cracked. These trees that we're looking at are not cracked. I went down, touched them all the way down to a little part of the root, all the way up to the tree. Looks like a healthy tree, so I was kind of happy to see that Mr. Clark said they were healthy, so I'm not crazy. So I didn't see any cracked trees, like dried up type of thing. And then coming out, just before that lot, I looked to the right, and there is a pole, and whoever was responsible for that pole, I think it's a telephone pole, there's a lot of thought put into holding up that pole, which looks like it should be taken down. So I have these mixed observations and perceptions of what's going on. So I'm concerned about taking trees out when they very likely are helping to stop water drainage that could be very harmful to the homeowners association. However, I would not want to see something not done to help prop them up so that they can grow and also maybe help the roots system. Although the root system didn't look like it was in trouble because there was no, you know how a tree, when it's chafing, you can tell the color is different, you can feel it, it's moist. I didn't see any of that anywhere. So my biggest thing is, isn't there an alternative that you can save the healthy tree, protect the homeowners? I haven't heard any of that.
Thank you, Sue. Deirdre.
I think it's very hard to make a decision based on 5 trees in 5 different locations. I think it was a very hard decision for you to make these separately. So my first question is the city attorney, is there any opportunity for separation of these things? Like the trees, like we would like to say, for instance, 550 Seaspray Court, tree, yes, remove. The others stay.
Yes, council can modify the decision of the Parks, Beach, and Recreation Commission, and that modification could include a separation out of the trees.
Okay, thanks. So I also was a PB&R commissioner, so I've gone through this before and for a couple. And so I have a tendency to appreciate the decisions that come out of these very thoughtful commissions. And if you know me, you'll know that I have a tendency to agree with the decisions that come out because of that, the breadth of experience that they do have. My experience is I live on I live on a hillside, and I have big tall trees, and I have the same issue where I want the trees there to protect me from a mudslide, but I don't want them to fall on my house. I actually had the Butler brothers come out and look at my backyard, and he told me these 3 definitely need to come out, and I was like, what about that other one, you know? And he's like, that's pretty healthy, but it scares the living daylights out of me. So even if someone told me that that it's healthy and it should stay there and it's providing you, you know, it's offsetting your, you know, your greenhouse gas, things like that. I still emotionally, I'm scared of that tree. So I appreciate your observations at 550 Seaspray Court. I'm also concerned about your, with the new baby and the parking. Not so much when I see the pictures, not that you're any less important, but because of the emotional attachment, a little bit towards this being right over their bedrooms. So my recommendation, this is, you know, based on everything I'm hearing tonight, and I also, I'm very, was disheartened to hear that the HOA did not show up to that initial appeal, and I think that it is your job and your duty to do so. And I also think that 25 out of 95 homes, that 25 of them is a large amount, and I actually think there's probably more than 25. You probably just didn't reach them all. So my recommendation and my vote tonight is going to be to uphold all of the decision that PB&R makes, with the exception of the 550 Seaspray Court, if that is tree number 4. I would recommend pulling that out and letting them remove that. Unfortunately, when you live in an HOA, you're at the mercy of the HOA. It's not, you can't just have trees removed errantly as well. So that's my thought.
So is tree number 4 the one that is impacting, potentially impacting 550 Seaspray? Oscar, if you're still around.
Yes.
Can you answer?
I'm still here, but I didn't see how the trees were numbered and how they were mapped. But I brought my own pictures of the tree behind my house, and they look a little bit more significant than the ones you have, I think. So if you'd like to see them, I can show them to you.
Does staff know, or perhaps
tree number 4 would be the tree closest to the walkway I describe in the part about viewing the trees. When you walk between the two buildings, I'm not sure the addresses. Tree number 4 would be the first one before you, so it'd be the northernmost tree, I guess would be, but anyway, if you walk up that walkway, it would be the first tree as you look to
Can I
your
show
right.
you what I'm looking at, and you identify that this is tree number 4 that you're looking at? Can I do that?
Well, I know what tree number 4 is. I don't know where his house is related to tree number 4.
Oh, can somebody identify it? If I hand them
On
this?
this map,
If you show me a map, I can.
they indicate that tree number 6 is behind Sea Spray Court.
And we don't have a 6.
The numbers on the map do not correspond to the numbers of the tree. Those are areas that the Butler Tree Service was going to be working in, which is
Right.
part of their proposal for work. So I
Right.
believe, so trees 1 through 4 are located in the open space behind Sea Spray's Court, and then there's, anyway, it's in the, I'm sorry, all right, but there's 2 areas essentially. That is relating to pruning work and other things that they were doing.
Could the homeowner look at this thing?
Yeah.
If staff wants to show,
Yeah.
I can walk this.
Oh,
over.
sure, go ahead.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Oh, to me.
While they're doing that.
Sure.
While they're doing that, trees 1, 2, and 3, if any one of those 3 trees fell, would they fall on any home, walking path?
Tree number 1 would most likely fall on a fence. Tree number 2 would probably hit the house. Tree number 3, most likely just the fence, and tree number 4 would hit the house most likely.
Okay.
Tree number 5 would fall in the parking area.
Mine? It looks like it's number 2, because it matches my number 2. Yeah. You wanted this one too? This one actually better. Yeah.
So you think number 2 is the one that is, that you're particularly concerned about?
That would be it, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Regular speaking.
Mayor Keener, if I might just make a suggestion, when the council does come around to a motion, and what Councilmember Martin was suggesting, is to just, since there's a little bit of confusion about the numbering of the trees, is to just also specify, if that's the council's decision, the tree that is threatening that particular property.
Right.
Maybe you can tie a yellow ribbon around it.
They have yellow notices.
Hmm?
They have yellow notices already. Can I?
Yes.
Okay,
Sue
I'm
Ramos.
concerned about, I love trees. My house is covered with trees. But I'm concerned about trees falling in houses. It can happen in a heartbeat. It's happened many times in Valamar where trees fell on houses and entirely crushed them. There could be a person. I'm more concerned about people than I am concerned about the trees in this particular case. So I think that any tree that would fall into a house, such as on our list, trees number 2, tree number 4, and tree number 5 also, because I could see that even though that's mainly parking, there could be people there, anyone could be there.
Yep.
So I'm concerned that tree 2, 4, and 5, and I think that I would like to see those trees cut, and the other 2 that would only fall on a fence, those 2 can remain. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Sue. Anybody else?
I still
I'll just interject here that I agree with you, that 2, 4, and 5, because of the potential danger to property, but more importantly, to people within that property, okay? So, Sue Degree.
Like, I still don't see any answer to an alternative to cutting the tree down. So if it's a healthy tree and you're on a hillside, and again, the drainage ditch is there for a reason. And they also had water pipes, I think. Yeah, they were there. I was stepping all over them. I'm concerned, so there's a concern for a tree falling, right, but if it's a healthy tree that could be propped so it grows in a different direction and pruned so it's not going to injure anything. You have the erosion factor on a hill. It's very concerning because that could mean lots of bad things for homeowners in there. And if you look at the tree, look at it, how it's holding in there. If you're there on top of it, you see the roots really pulling. Why there isn't more coverage by the grass, but the grass isn't going to hold it as well as tree roots. I don't know. I just think erosion around here is a very frightening thing, and you can prune a tree and you can prop it to grow up. So I don't know why you would want to take away the root structure under it, which are extremely strong and hold soil together.
Okay. Mike?
I live on a street and I have a hill behind me, and I've had two trees fall on my house. One on my daughter's bedroom, and fortunately all it took out was the gutter and a little bit of roof. But just last week we were sitting in the family room and my daughter hears a big sound, and all of a sudden there was a 35-foot tree falling into our deck. And it was a beautiful day, just like this, this weekend was. And in looking at these trees, I see some big branches that if the wind comes along, the wind could blow them into the fence and into the houses. And I just feel that if there is a danger that the wind blows, because also on my hill, I've had branches this size get blown off the trees and blowing into, on my hill, it just went into the dirt, didn't go in any structures. But in my block, there's been at least 6, 7 trees that have hit houses. So I'm very concerned that the wind could catch these branches and blow them, because it's already deformed the tree to what it is today. So I would support removal of all the trees based on what staff's recommendation is. So.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. One other thing I wanted to bring up was whatever trees we decide should be removed, they will have to be replaced. And I believe that the municipal code says that they'll be replaced by the same type of tree, and we don't have a lot of wiggle room on that. Am I correct in that assumption?
Mayor, it indicates that a tree in section City Code section 4-12.05 E, in order to mitigate the adverse effects of tree removal, a tree removal permit may be conditioned upon tree relocation, planting of replacement trees, or payment of fees in lieu thereof if on-site replacement is not feasible.
Okay. In your opinion, Aaron, is it feasible to, well, first of all, it doesn't say that it has to be the same type of tree?
It does not specify that it has to be the same tree. I think
Okay.
Mr. Clark referred to their, the development plan when the development was initiated, and there may be some requirements in that
Yeah.
that specify the type of tree.
Yeah. But what I wanted to ask you, Aaron, was if they were to remove some trees, or all the trees, depending on what we decide, could you plant new stone pines or other trees in the same general location so as to maintain the shade, well, eventually maintain the shade and so on afforded by the trees that they have now?
Yeah, you could plant the same tree. I agree, it would be a period of time before you get the same coverage. And trees come in 3 basic sizes, and it would be difficult to get a large tree back there. One of the things to remember is a lot of times you're better off planting a smaller tree because the roots establish quicker, and a lot of times the smaller tree outperforms the larger tree within a couple of years because they become established better. A tree won't start to grow until the roots become established in a new soil, so sometimes putting a large tree in is kind of counterproductive. I just want to be clear on one thing about the pruning. I never said that pruning would be a solution. What I've said is it's an option that could be looked at. And when I look at a removal permit, I look at the tree and decide if it can be pruned within normal ISA standards. I don't think you could get the safety with these trees without going outside of the guidelines. We do have the option to do what's called a substantial pruning permit. And that the homeowner association wants to look at that and get an arborist out there to put a pruning plan together. That's something that we can look at. But I think it's going to be difficult on these trees for various reasons. It's mostly because the foliage on this type of tree is concentrated mostly at the tips of the limbs, so it's hard to get a good reduction on the tree. You really have to remove sections of the tree to get the weight reduction, and I think that's why you're going to exceed normal pruning guidelines. That's up to the homeowners association. I mean, they can manage their trees how they see fit. And again, the removal permit does not require that they remove the trees. It just provides them that option if other options fail. As far as propping trees, that would be incredibly difficult. I've seen it done. It's expensive. Anything can be done. It's up to these owners of these trees to decide how they want to manage the trees. What I don't want to see, or what I don't, not my thing, but what I would disagree with is to not do anything. I think the trees do represent a risk as they stand right now. They're going to continue to grow larger, and some mitigation plan needs to be put in place, whether it's removal or trimming or whatever is decided. But I think the homeowners association should be given as much leadway as possible in determining how they want to do that.
And I think on their original permit application, they just flat out said they wanted to remove them. Isn't that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That was the original plan, yes.
Okay. Sue DeGree, question.
So along with that, so you're saying that giving them a permit to remove is up to them what they want to do about it, whether they remove it or not?
Correct.
Let's assume they are going to remove them. Would you recommend, for example, they're going to remove them and they're going to add a tree. Would you recommend, because apparently the last time it was done, that wasn't followed through well, and so the trees supposedly are growing in that direction, should we give some kind of a directive as to how deep they should go, how often they should check them, whether they should put something on there to make sure that the growth goes up rather than horizontal?
That's all pretty standard. Normally what you do when you plant a tree is, and I'm not saying these trees were planted improperly, I wasn't there when it was done, but it's very common, and that's the only reason I mention that, for people to dig a hole the size of the pot and put the tree in that hole. and especially on soil that's that rocky because, it's been graded and there's not a lot of topsoil there, that if you don't disturb the soil, you're supposed to do 3 times the width of the root ball when you plant the tree to allow the roots, they will react to that as if they're still in the pot. It doesn't look like that's the case here, but for whatever reason, those trees fell over. Maybe they weren't staked. I don't know. But normally you want to plant a tree, you want to come back after the first year, do what's called a structural prune to alleviate the problems that you're talking about. You remove branches that are growing in the wrong direction. You make sure it has a central trunk, and you try to make sure that it gets a good start in life. And that's not what happened here. So we're dealing with trees that are going to need some sort of either to be removed or they're going to need some ongoing, and it's not just a one-time prune. They're going to have to be maintained in a size smaller than they would want to achieve in the natural environment. They can't grow to full size with the root structure the way it is. So it becomes a matter of how do you want to manage them, and I think the homeowners association needs to make that decision.
So one reason I'm asking for that is that the homeowners association, unfortunately, doesn't seem to have a track record of doing that. And even tonight, the manager's here, but as far as I know, there's no board members here. At least they're not speaking. So if we were to go with what staff member suggests, allowing a permit, could we put directives that the type of thing he just spoke? Would that be acceptable?
Yes, the code provides in section 4-12.05 F, subsection F, that the permit could be conditioned. And those conditions would be consistent with the overall scheme of the code.
Thank you.
So for any trees that, any of these 5 stone pines that we didn't approve a permit to remove, they could prune them. Is that right?
Yes.
That doesn't require a permit?
It doesn't require a permit if you do it within the guidelines, which is 30% of the green. I'm thinking on these trees, considering I personally feel that they aren't safe right now, that to make them safe, you would want to trim outside of the guidelines, which would require the tree owners to consult with some sort of arborist and put a plan together. And if that plan is, reasonable, we would do that. You always have to remember that, you could harm the tree. I mean, could be more susceptible to, beetle attack or whatever. When you do that, that's why the guidelines are in place.
Yeah.
But I think these trees have grown large enough, and they are bigger than they look. The one homeowner is correct. I mean, you're talking about tons of weight. They look small, but they're heavy.
Yeah.
And you want to remove some of that weight to relieve the stress on the what I consider a compromised root system.
So, back to Sue Vitalas's proposal of remove 2, 4, and 5. I wonder if we could say on 1 and 3, we will permit pruning beyond the guidelines, the whatever the arborist guidelines are, or.
I don't see why we would do that. I mean, Aaron just said that if you had to prune this even further, all you're doing is making it even more susceptible to, like you said, a beetle attack, or because the foliage is on the tips, you're just leaving it with more mass trunk, right? So why would we open it up to even more susceptibility? Is that a right word? Is that the word? Is that a word? Susceptibility?
Yeah.
My reasoning on that is that, again, I feel, because I've looked at the trees, that they are in their current condition too heavy, and they're getting heavier because they continue to grow, and that some sort of weight reduction needs to be done. And if they can do it within ISA guidelines, they don't need a permit. If they talk to an arborist and then they feel that they need to go further than that, we can entertain that idea if they want to, arborist feels that that's a better option. That's up to them to make those determinations with their tree care provider. And we can issue a permit if the homeowners find that they think that's the better option to do that, yes.
Okay. So that gets us down to, or me anyway, down to, again, Sue Vadeross's proposal of remove 2, 4, and 5, and then let the homeowners association consult with their arborist, and perhaps come back with request for a permit on 1 and 3. Sue Degree.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
My main thing is erosion control and as part of the safety. I'm certainly in favor of safety, that's for sure.
Yeah, okay. Mike O'Neill?
Aaron, if you could refresh my memory, since we've been talking about this for a while, but Ian Butler Tree Service came out, who's a certified arborist, right?
Yes.
Okay. Didn't he come out, look at the trees already, and say that the best thing to do is removal?
I believe these are based on his recommendation. I don't think he did a formal arborist report. He is a certified arborist, to my understanding, and these are recommendations that I saw in a bid proposal that was put forth to the homeowners association. So I don't know that they discussed a pruning option with him. I don't know that. I have no idea what conversation took place.
So they've had maybe a half an arborist report, and he kind of recommended removal?
Right.
Excuse me.
Again, I don't, if I was a private contractor, I would recommend removal of those trees too. I recommend the removal of them right now.
Yeah.
But I'm not discounting other options. It's the homeowners they own the trees, and they have the right to do as they see fit, with regards to that.
Deirdre?
So we have to get to a consensus tonight, and I think it's part of our duty to make sure that the people of Pacifica are protected. So for all of those reasons, I would agree with the removal of the trees that would threaten homes and lives. But the other two that would protect, some level of erosion, I would recommend just leaving them as is and denying the application to remove them. That, I would agree to that.
Okay.
Do a clarification. Are you making a motion to remove the one over the parking lot?
Yeah, I think that was one of them that was included.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. And I think replacing the trees 1, 2, 4, and 5 with something similar. Maybe
Some
not
native
exactly
species
not exactly the same species would be okay, but something similar.
Then he said the development permit said that they had to be the same trees, so as long as they're replacing the trees.
Oh, okay.
And they
Yeah.
go along with what the development permit says, because we don't want to
Yeah.
have to get into changing that.
Right. Okay.
I'll second Deirdre's
So
motion.
are you,
Do you want to make a
Sure, I'll
motion,
make that
Deirdre?
motion.
can you make it, go slow when you.
Council, for clarification, you would be modifying the commission's decision and then specifying what trees you want removed and which trees will stay in place, and then the conditions that you're imposing upon the removal, which would be a replacement.
Right.
Could you
Yeah.
put some kind of
Do you want me
erosion
to
control?
repeat that?
Yeah.
Or does that stand?
No, you would
I'll have
need,
to
I
repeat
was
it.
just
Okay.
providing
So
a simple.
I'll make a motion, I hope this is the right one, to uphold the, to modify the PB&R Commission's decision to leave the 2 trees that do not threaten homes or lives, and grant the permit for removal of the 3 trees that do threaten homes and lives. That's the 2 that are close to homes and the 1 near a parking lot, whichever numbers they may be. And make a specification upon replacement that it goes along with the development plan of the same and/or like species. Is that, City Attorney?
You're conditioning the removal requirement with the replacement of trees
For the development permit.
for the development permit or land design permit. Okay.
Could you add to that something about erosion? Because they may not replace the tree for a long time. Is there something you could add to, as a condition to protect for erosion control when they remove that tree, or?
Don't they have a timeline for which to replace that, or no?
So just for a point of order, you have a motion pending. Councilmember Digger, you've asked to modify her motion. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there an opportunity to, isn't there a time frame by which they have to replace the tree that has been removed? Because if it's within, 6 months, is it worth doing anything?
It's normally something we write into the permit in the mitigation. We just, when we
Okay, so then
issue
I
the
would
permit,
just-
you can pick a time frame.
Okay, so then I would say within 6 months that the after removal has to be replaced. Is that adequate?
Well, yes, I'm all for replacement, but I'm more concerned about erosion control as soon as possible, whatever that is.
Replacement of the tree within 6 months, that's what I'm
Okay.
suggesting. Okay.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. I'll be darned. Okay.
Want this?
Thank you, everybody. The PBNR Commission, Aaron, and the speakers on both sides. So the final item for the night is just adoption of the fiscal year 2018-2019 annual operating and capital budget.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Keener and council members. Kevin Woodhouse, City Manager. I'm going to provide some brief summary comments about the proposed budget, and Assistant City Manager Hines is up here as well, should the council have any questions for us about this proposed budget. Many of the comments I'll provide are excerpts from the city manager's message regarding the proposed budget. So to begin with, on behalf of city staff, I'm very pleased to present for your consideration this proposed budget for fiscal year 2018-19. This structurally balanced budget was developed based on input from the narrative budget session on April 24th, 2018, and subsequent budget presentations and discussion by the council on May 3rd, May 14, May 29, and June 11th. Before providing summary comments, I'd like to thank the council for your thoughtful review and input thus far in this process, as well as acknowledge key staff who were critical to bringing this together. Assistant City Manager Hines and the entire finance team, all department directors and their key staff, Executive Assistant Sarah Coffey, City Clerk Kathy O'Connell, and City Attorney Michelle Kenyon. This was really a team effort. As you know, year after year, it's a long process. A lot of focus and attention went into this budget this year. So in this proposed budget, Some key highlights. Ongoing expenditures are contained within ongoing forecasted revenues in order for the budget to remain structurally balanced. Critical program enhancements are provided with one-time revenues. This proposed budget increases cost recovery with modest fee-for-service increases, as well as rate increases in the wastewater enterprise fund. Additionally, it provides for prudent budgeting best practices, such as beginning to allocate one-time funding toward emergency fund balance commitments, otherwise previously known as reserves, as well as continue progress toward resolving inter-fund loan repayments. Overall, this proposed budget continues recent years' budget themes of financial transparency, pursuing cost recovery, and budgeting annual expenses at or below annual revenues while not using one-time money to cover ongoing non-discretionary expenses. Finally, this structurally balanced proposed budget continues to provide excellent, although constrained, services to the community and also provides greater clarity and understanding of the city's financial status in an easy-to-read format. The budget process really began with the Council's March 3rd goal-setting session. The 2018-19 City Council goals and Council prioritized projects and initiatives were adopted by the Council on April 24th, and this budget supports work on those community priorities, in addition to a list of other executive priorities affirmed by the Council on the night of the 24th. Also on the 24th, in the narrative budget discussion, the Council discussed and provided direction regarding 9 different budget strategies recommended by the City Manager to guide development of the budget, and the budget transmittal memo beginning on page 3 summarizes those 9 strategies. So the proposed general fund budget is $34,568,000. Importantly, in order to propose a structurally balanced budget, ongoing expenditures do not exceed ongoing revenues, and one-time expenditures are covered with one-time revenues. Ongoing expenditures in this budget are increasing 1.71% over last year's mid-year adjusted amount. With the addition of $2 million in one-time expenditures, the combined ongoing and one-time expenditures are projected to be 7.7% more than last year's mid-year adjusted expenditures. The proposed budget includes numerous key strategies and funding actions to improve the city's fiscal stability and transparency, improve operations and projects, and prepare for future year budget challenges. For example, and I won't speak in detail about each of these, but it begins to fund balance commitment allocations. Although the amounts that are recommended to be funded in these reserves do not reach the policy goals intended, they're a prudent start and leave undesignated general fund cash balance of approximately $2.3 million for unexpected expenses. There are a number of other strategies which I won't speak about, but I'll just list here: the consolidation of the Disaster Accounting Fund and the ERAF Fund, pre-allocating excess ERAF funding to help fund nonprofits that we historically have funded, to use a tool related to one-time dollars by transferring excess debt service fund balance to those programs that require the one-time funding. This budget includes additional funding for streets paving project beyond our normal grant-funded projects. It includes funding for public works and capital projects such as sidewalk and curb ramp repairs, hazardous tree removals, city facility maintenance repairs, Rockaway Beach streetlight replacements, Terra Nova tennis court light repairs, and grant matching funding for the bicycle and pedestrian master plan project, just to name a few. It includes funding for IT improvements, much needed IT improvements. It includes funding for critical planning studies related to several priority projects identified by the council, such as the specific plans for West Sharp Park, the Palmetto District, and the quarry site. in addition to an update to the Climate Action Plan. Additionally, it includes funding for critical fire equipment, such as additional self-contained breathing apparatus and turnouts for fire, as well as the first year of a lease to purchase for a new fire engine. It continues, as we have in previous years, to include a repayment plan for pension obligation bond loan repayments to the wastewater fund at a cost of $147,000. Now, although the budget preparation and financial health of the city is often focused on the general fund, which takes in discretionary revenues, funds the majority of staff, and houses the majority of city operations, there are numerous other funds, as the council is aware, that comprise the city's full financial picture. These include funds like the Wastewater Enterprise Fund, beach parking, special revenue funds like gas tax or excess ERAF, the Roy Davies Trust Fund, debt service funds, internal service funds, and capital project funds. So to round out the financial picture in this budget, these funds have a total budget of $46,987,000 for fiscal year 2018-19. So the combined general fund budget and all funds in its entirety is a total financial picture equal to $81,555,000. I won't talk in detail about the other funds unless the council has questions about those. Another key aspect of this budget adoption is that at a public hearing on June 11th, the council adopted a resolution approving the proposed 2018-19 fees and charges schedule. And the council first reviewed and proposed changes on May 3rd, and then with the introduction of the 2018-19 proposed budget. So to kind of conclude this brief overview, and I'd point you to the 13 or 14 page transmittal summary or the hundreds of pages of the actual proposed budget for the details. I'm very pleased to be continuing Pacifica's trend from recent years of presenting a proposed budget that is balanced, transparent, accountable, prudent, and supports forward progress on critical programs and services for the Pacifica community. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Kevin. Sue DeGree.
Questions? Are you ready for comments?
No, I have a speaker card. Any other questions? No? Tiger Jazz Big Stick, come to the podium, or come on down.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. I am Tiger Jazz Twirls Big Stick of Pacifica. I just want to say thank you as a board member of the Pacifica Resource Center for, as Assistant City Manager put it multiple times, making the Resource Center a priority and making sure that we are invested by the city which we serve. As somebody who has an intimate understanding of what our finances look like and the ways in which we are able to leverage those monies and with the ways in which we wish to leverage those monies into serving our community and making sure that we're strong and secure. I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and Lorenzo, thank you to all of you. And thank you to the rest of the staff for making sure that we are included and we continue to be included, and that it is understood how important it is, the job that we're doing, and that measure being put in to make sure our city is secure. So that's the bottom line. It's an acknowledgement and an actionable financial line item that ultimately dictates and says, yes, we want our community to be as secure as it is capable of being. So thank you all.
Thank you, Tiger. Okay, Sue DeGree, you had a comment.
Yes, I just want to say thank you to City Manager and Finance Assistant City Manager and to Council and to all of staff, because we face unique challenges and it's very hard work. It's not over. And the last statements about being balanced, transparent, prudent, and progressive for critical things is very important, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor Keener, just to clarify, did you close public comment?
Yeah.
Thank you.
My comments came after.
Deirdre.
Yeah, I'll second that. It's a lot of hard work to get to where we are today, but our work's not over. Now we have to implement it. And I want to just thank everyone for all the long hours that they put in, especially Lorenzo. And thanks to City Manager for your guidance.
Anybody else? Want to make a motion?
I will.
Okay.
I know I already. I move that we adopt the fiscal year 2018-19 annual operating and capital budget appropriation totaling, move to adopt number one, fiscal year 2018-19 appropriation totaling $85,000 from the Roy Davies Trust Fund by a 4/5 vote. So do we need to separate those?
I probably not.
Well, I would recommend that we separate them out if we can, since it does require, the first part does require a 4/5 vote.
I think we'll get that.
Okay?
Yeah, we'll. And two, a resolution adopting the 2018-19 annual operating and capital budget presented to the council tonight with a general fund appropriation of $34,600,000 and an all funds appropriation of $81,555,000. And I move.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Mike, thank you. Mike O'Neill seconds. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. And city
Goodbye,
has a
Kathy.
budget for next year.
Goodbye, Kathy.
Yes. Yeah. So we're adjourning this meeting in honor of Kathy O'Connell by unanimous request.
I'll see you at the podium with my yellow speaker card.
Okay. Yellow speaker card.
Yeah, right.